Hey guys, welcome back to r/IDontWorkHereLady, where you can find encounters with some real oblivious people. So let's begin. Avoided my very own I don't work here situation, and got vastly different reactions. I've read plenty of stories from the subreddit over the years. Because of that, the first thing I ask if I need help at a store, and there's someone that fits the description of an employee is, "Excuse me, do you work here?" It was this very thing that caused the following situation at the grocery store. Shoplifting is pretty bad at this store, so the commonly stolen medicines are locked in a cabinet. One of the medicines I needed was in the cabinet, so I went off to find an employee. I spot someone stocking beverages in the drinks aisle, so I approach and ask if he works here. The guy ignores me, so I ask again as I walked a little closer to him, but he brushes me off again. Finally, I'm pretty much 5 feet away from him and I ask again, to which he starts stumbling his words. The poor guy probably thought he's about to have a story for this sub, but when he tells me that he works for a company that stocks the drinks, I apologize for bothering him and wish him a good day. Simple as that. That's how all I don't work here situations should go, but then we wouldn't have fun or wholesome stories for the sub. Story is not over yet though. Eventually I find someone else that fits the description of an employee and I ask if they work here. They give me a very stern no, before laughing and saying, "I'm just playing, of course I do. What do you need?" They helped me get my medicine and that was that. Just an interesting day at the grocery store. Always remember to be kind and understanding of employees. She left an irate message for my manager. This was a Saturday morning in the time of phone books, and my boyfriend had the same surname minus the S of a well-known vacuum cleaner chain. I answered a call on her phone and this woman starts to ask me about my vacuum cleaner sale. It was not the first call that morning I'd had to field. I interject when she takes a breath, and courteously, I worked customer service Monday to Friday, inform her that she had called a residence, not a store, and she needed to call the shop. She had the wrong number, and as such I was not able to help her. She inquired again about the vacuum she was interested in, at a heavy discount, apparently some major one-day-only sale. I reiterate that she is not called the blank store. She is called a residence, a home, an apartment. You need to call the shop, you have the wrong number. After repeating myself a few times and not getting anywhere, I finally just said goodbye, shook my head at the absurdity and hung up. The phone rings again, and by this time I've had to deal with several more lost vacuum customers, so I just let the answering machine get it. I am incredulous to hear this woman leaving a message on my personal answering machine. Again, not announcing a vacuum shop name, and proceeded to leave an irate-sounding message for my manager. After I picked up my jaw from the floor, I laughed. She was demanding an apology and my immediate termination. I lived in that apartment with the same listed number for 12 years. This was the only day I ever had calls intended for the shop. Must have been a hell of a sale. And this next one is more of an I do work here kind of situation. Beggars can't be choosers, literally. The other day I was outside my work, office block in the city center, on my smoke break talking with my workmates. Now bearing in mind that this is the city center, there is not too much through traffic, pedestrian or otherwise. There is a large park by our office where a fair amount of homeless people gather to drink, etc., but not much else around. It's pretty obvious where we are standing that we work for the office building. It's also not a public building. You have to have a pass to get past the door, and there's no real need why anyone who doesn't work in this building would be standing outside it, although where we stand is technically public land. A homeless-seeming guy comes over and asks for any spare change. We didn't have any cash and told him that. He then asked if we could spare a smoke. All my friends do the obligatory pat-down and excuses of last cigarette, etc. I feel kinda bad for the guy as he was polite upon asking, and there really isn't anything worse than not having a smoke when you're craving one, so I offered him mine. I passed the guy the whole pack to take a cigarette from, but kept a keen eye on him as he did look a bit flighty, and I didn't really want him running off with basically a fresh pack of smokes. The guy looked at the package, pulled a disgusted face, and started complaining and moaning about the brand of tobacco to me. "Could you not afford anything better?" he asks. It's not a cheap brand. My friend and I exchanged a look of, "Is this guy serious?" And I shrugged and told him, "I like what I like, I guess." He then asked me if I had any other cigarettes he could have instead. I was baffled. I'm not some sort of cigarette vending machine. I laughed and said, "No, sorry, that's all I have," If you don't want, then I'm sure you can ask someone else. He mumbled something I didn't really hear and took 2 cigarettes out of the box. Cheeky, but whatever. He lit one of the cigarettes and then jumped up from where he was sitting on the wall, and spluttering and screamed, "What the f***? They're menthol!" and threw the box at me, yelling, "What the f***, menthol? Why don't you just get a job?" I pointed to my lanyard and said, what? I literally work right here." And with that, he walked off, still smoking my cigarette, shouting, "Whatever, just get a job, you freak, get a job," leaving me to pick up the box and stare after him in complete shock. Later, my friend said, he obviously wasn't aware. Beggars literally can't be choosers. Anyway, apologies, it wasn't a juicy Karen story, just a bizarre one instead. The time I got chilied. This is an old story, and for reasons that will become clear, I'm not absolutely sure of every single fact. In the summer of my 14th year, my mom sent me to the supermarket, about 2 miles away, specifically to buy some cream of mushroom soup for a recipe she was planning to cook for dinner. I should say that at 14, I was skinny but tall for my age, and it wasn't unusual for people just meeting me to think I was a couple of years older. Anyway, I biked to the store. Mom had specifically wanted a 4-pack of the soup. I didn't bother with a shopping cart since I was only there for the one thing. The supermarket had about a dozen shelves of different brands of soup. The brand my mom wanted was in white and red cans, and they all looked alike. The varieties weren't alphabetized, and for some time I took cans down to look at them. I found single cans of the mushroom soup, but Mom had told me to get a 4-pack. While I was seeking one of those at chest level, a middle-aged woman bumped me, not hard, with her shopping cart. I stepped closer to the shelves to let her pass, but of course she didn't want to pass. "Hey you," she said in a grouchy voice. "Stop stalking for a minute. I want some bouillon cubes and the place on the shelf's empty. Go in the back and bring some out." "I don't work here," I said, turning back towards the shelves and finally spotting 4 packs of tomato soup and cream of mushroom soup on the very bottom shelf. I bent down to get the soup, and then my head seemed to explode and I passed out. I don't really remember much, except seeing an eruption of yellow light, and then everything went dark. Literally, the next thing I remember is a hefty guy in a white paper cap and a butcher's apron, kneeling beside me where I sprawled on the floor, pushing something against my head and saying, "Easy, easy, don't move." The woman loomed over him, screaming, "Fire him! He attacked me! I'll sue!" Then my head was pounding and I saw what looked like a huge pool of blood all around my face. I tried to ask what happened, but kept zoning in and out. Then I was being rolled on a gurney and 2 EMTs in green scrubs were loading me into an ambulance. One of them drove, the other rode in the back with me and asked me how many fingers she was holding up, and shined a flashlight in my eyes. Then she said, "Could you hold this against the wound? Press it tight." It was a gauze pad and it already felt soaked. My whole head ached. The ride to the hospital didn't seem to take more than 30 seconds, but as I say, my memory is wonky. Somewhere along the way, the EMT asked for my name, address, and phone number, and asked if I had any ID. I had my school ID card in my wallet, which was in my jeans pocket. By the time they rolled me into the ER, my mom met us, yelling, "What happened?" I did not know, but the EMT said, "A woman in the supermarket threw a heavy can of chili at him and hit him on the side of the head." Why did she do that? I told her I didn't know. We were in a curtained-off area of the ER, and a young doctor came in, looked at me, took some pictures, and told me I needed stitches. He poured something into the wound that sizzled and stung like crazy. He gave me a couple of injections to anesthetize the area. A nurse shaved off some hair over my right ear, and then I could sort of feel the doctor putting in the 9 stitches it took to close the wound. But they weren't painful, just weird tugs. He explained that scalp wounds bleed a lot, gave my mom a prescription for a painkiller, and gave her a photocopy of a printout with concussion and wound care instructions on it. Told me to rest and drink plenty of fluids, and to stay awake until bedtime. But Mom and I couldn't return home right away. As we processed out of the hospital, a policeman met us, and told Mom to follow his car back to the supermarket. He took us to an office in the back, where the woman was still complaining loudly that I had attacked her. By then, maybe 2 hours had passed, and she was still screeching. The policeman asked us what happened. All I could say was, "This lady wanted me to get out of her way, and I did, but she hit me." "Liar," the woman yelled, her face beet red. I told him to get me a jar of bouillon cubes from the back of the store, and he cursed at me and slapped me. The guy in the butcher's apron, Mr. Butcher, was there too, and he said, "Officer, that's not true. I saw everything." She spoke to him. He leaned down to get something from a shelf, and she picked up a jumbo can of chili and threw it hard, laying open his scalp. He didn't touch her. "I didn't hurt him," the woman bellowed. "I was just trying to get his attention. Fire him." Mr. Butcher said, "Lady, he's just a kid. He doesn't even work here, and he didn't slap you and you hurt him plenty." The policeman had me turn sideways to the woman. "Look at the shoulder and side of his shirt," he said. It was actually a yellow school jersey with black trim, but I had a huge blotch of drying blood on that side. Plus, my head was bandaged, so you'd think I was wearing a topless turban. Then the policeman asked me if I wanted to press charges. I didn't know what to say, but my mom cut in and said, "You're damn right we do." I'd never heard her curse before, but she was mad. To top it all off, someone had stolen my bike from the parking lot, and Mom was so upset she even forgot to buy the soup. By the time we started for home, everything had sunk in and I was having a horrible headache, and was shaking and trying not to cry. I asked my mom, why would she do that? From what I was wearing, she had to know I didn't work for the store. My mom, with the death grip on the steering wheel, said between her teeth, "I'll tell you why a woman like her would do that. It's because she's..." Well, I won't repeat it here, but my mom proved that she knew a lot more curse words than I'd ever supposed. The woman did get arrested and charged with assault, but by the time she came up for trial, it was fall and school had started. I didn't have to testify though. They did show photos of my blood on the floor of the supermarket and my head wound. I think the doctor took them, but don't remember for sure. Both Mr. Butcher and my mom were at the trial and testified though. Later she said the charge was aggravated assault and battery, but finally the jury convicted the woman for simple assault. She got 6 months in jail, suspended, a fine, and had to pay my family back for my medical expenses. I was disappointed that she didn't also have to buy me a new bike. Though I didn't have a serious concussion, it does bother me that my memory of the whole thing is so spotty. However, if I want to remind myself of this occasion, I just have to run my fingers along the right side of my head about 2 inches above my ear, and I can still feel the scar. Alright guys, that's it for today. Thank you for watching. Be sure to drop a like if you enjoyed, and also subscribe to the channel for more. So have an awesome day. I'll see you all next time.